Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Friends of Mortgage Heroes. I'm Andy, and today I have my new friend, Sara Khosroabadi, with me with Khosroabadi and Hill. And their primary focuses are consumer protection, employment law, and family law. They also have a podcast, they're part of a legal podcast network where they're navigating consumer and family law challenges. They provide insightful discussions on the complex areas of family law, consumer protection, and employment law, where they focus on guiding listeners through difficult legal situations that aim to educate individuals about their rights and options, helping them navigate the challenges that come with family disputes, consumer debt, and workplace issues. Sara, welcome to Friends of Mortgage Heroes.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Nice long mouthful there. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I wanted to kind of set the stage because, it's a lot of times generalities and easy to say titles, they have a lot of nuance to them. I don't know that I've met anyone that has consumer protection, employment, and family law together. So kind of that's a first. But the primary focus for wanting to have this conversation together today is really about the consumer protection part, specifically because, as I mentioned pre-show, this is our 20th year being a mortgage company, a family mortgage company. We've helped thousands of people at this point, and, we run into situations and we've seen situations. We've also noticed how the tide has changed over 2 decades now, not just technologically, but like the way that ID theft has worked and changes in all these other things. The bureaus have changed, new laws have come since we've been around. So, we're getting long in the tooth. And so, at one point there wasn't the Patriot Act and now there is. And then there, it was like you didn't have to have the NMLS license and now you do. And there's all this new stuff. So I want to unpack some of those things with you today.
Let's do it.
Sound good?
Excited. Yeah. Absolutely.
So let's kind of, first things first. So, where are you finding yourself right now doing the bulk of your consumer protection work? What is it that you are tackling and fighting day by day?
Good question. So identity theft, like you mentioned, has been a huge issue for a lot of people. And they don't necessarily know how to navigate that. So we're still learning how to educate clients and educate just consumers in general on how to, once they have been a victim of identity theft, how to kind of get themselves out of that situation. Identity theft has been huge. Credit reporting is huge too. People want to buy cars. They want to buy houses. There's something on their credit report that's precluding them from doing that. So that's been a really big area. And one area that kind of leveled out during COVID, especially because they weren't collecting, was collections. And we're seeing a lot more debt collection harassment, a lot more, cases that we're filing under the the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act.
Before I go too hard, I have 3 things I want to ask you right away, just because of that. Before I go too far, let's talk about the collection thing really quickly though, because so what happened during that period where collections were suspended over that time for how long? I don't know about that because thankfully I'm not personally in any collections. Yeah. But what was happening with consumers at that time?
Yeah, so COVID hit, the world shut down, as everyone knows, in March 2020, and the court systems actually closed for about 3 months. So court systems were closed until June. There was also a hiatus. There was just a national hiatus on collections. So people weren't able to collect on rent. They weren't really able to collect on debt. And it went on for about 2 years where just debt collection companies kind of ceased collecting during that time. There were no filings, no collections, just like a moratorium essentially on all things money, consumer-wise. I don't know if you know, but actually the bureaus changed their tactics too. So you used to only be able to pull a credit report once a year. Now you can pull one once a week. And that all happened during COVID because everyone was so worried about what was going on. There was a huge moratorium on just collections in general. No lawsuits, nothing. Now we're back to, I think it was it's crazy. It's in the thousands every week that are being filed in San Diego, especially. LA is tens of thousands that are being filed every week. So.
And this is for all sorts of collections, right? Like collection on car payments, on credit cards. Tell me what's the list? It's credit cards.
Yeah, it's mostly credit cards.
Well, and I know the personal debt. We talked about here on our other show, our regular podcast. We talk about economics a lot and the state of housing and real estate. And one of the things we've referenced to numerous times in 2025 is how credit card spending balances went past passed a trillion and then went to 1.2 trillion. Now it's passing 1.3 trillion. And you're like, whoa, people are just loading up more and more and more on the cards.
Yeah, during COVID, what ended up happening, what we heard a lot was people were taking out credit cards and they were spending on the credit card thinking, okay, well, when everything goes back to normal, I'll get my job back. I'll be able to pay off the credit cards. And that wasn't happening. And so a lot of the clients that I speak with regards to collections and credit card issues, that's the general, just the story is I took out these credit cards. I got them during COVID. I used them to survive. I thought I was going to get a job and it just hasn't worked out for me. And now I'm underwater and I don't know what to do. And so it's been interesting navigating that because, you know, you feel for people like these are not people who are like, I'm just not going to pay my credit card debt. They really needed it to survive.
Yeah.
And now they have, you know, they're getting sued by debt, you know, by the credit card companies, and, or it's going to collections with, you know, Midland and Portfolio. And those are just the big two that usually collect on these debts. And so trying to get them out from underneath that has been interesting.
Did I hear you use the word aggressive collections earlier?
Harassment.
Harassment, aggressive harassment. Did you say aggressive or no?
Debt collection harassment. No, I don't use the word. They are aggressive.
My ears heard aggressive harassment. Okay,
Yeah.
So are you? What's the difference between just like a debt collection call and harassment?
So typically, debt collection companies can call, and even, you know, banks and stuff like that. They can call and say, "Hey, you're past due. You got to pay your bill. When are you going to pay that?" What we're hearing a lot more is they're, you know, kind of not the name calling yet. They used to back in, gosh, when I first started, they would call you every name under the sun. You know, deadbeat, you're a loser, things like that. I haven't heard any of those stories yet in the last 5 years, but that's part of debt collection harassment. They can't also call your family members and let them know that you owe debt. We've had a couple instances where they've called work and said, you know, we're from such and such debt collection company. We're looking to speak with so-and-so. They owe money.
And there's no rule around that?
There is. Absolutely.
Okay.
Is.
I was like,
Yeah.
I don't think you're allowed.
Absolutely there is.
You're not allowed to do that. Okay.
That's why I'm in business.
Oh my gosh. So, but they'll do it anyways at what? Because they think no one's going to call them to the mat on it or what?
You know, with these debt collection companies, they're mills. So they have so many employees and they can only train their employees as well as they can with the amount of turnover they have too. And so I think what ends up happening is they get the people who are calling get frustrated. They're normal, you know, U.S. citizens and or anybody that's working for the company. And so I think they just get a little frustrated and then they start tiptoeing against that rule. It's the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. It's been around since the 70s. And it basically says no calling before 8 o'clock, no calling after 9. You can't harass people. You're not supposed to call them multiple times a day, things like that. And so, you know, there's some incentive. I don't know this for sure, but I think there's some incentive with collections as well.
Oh, there is.
So, you know, it just becomes a matter of how aggressive that person's going to be and whether or not they think they're going to get in trouble. And at the end of the day, I'm not filing a lawsuit against Jane Doe who contacted my client. I'm filing a lawsuit against Bank of America.
So you find yourself in the position where, let's say this is happening or some other version of what you're describing is happening to somebody and they go, I need legal help on my side. And then they'll either get referred to you or they find you and then they can retain you to help like stop. Like what kinds of things can you deploy if someone who's watching this part right now, like what kind of tactics can you help deploy for somebody to help prevent that happening for them and pressing in on them?
Yeah, great question. So I have two different types of clients who call me. One's who call me and say, I've been sued already and I know I need to handle that in court. So we typically will defend that client. Most of the time we're looking at negotiating for them, trying to get them into a better situation so that they can get out from underneath that. Sometimes the debt collection company that's suing them doesn't really have the right to sue them. So we can defend that case too. And then we have a lot of clients who call us, and it's before that aspect of it, before it's gotten to actual court, and we can navigate how to handle that debt collection company. Because in reality, what they're going to do is they're either going to call you, harass you, and try to collect their money, or they're going to sue you. So it's going to go one of two ways, right? What we typically see is there's about, I would say, 6 to 10 companies that actually do go the route of filing lawsuits. The other ones just kind of sell it to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. So what ends up happening is like Bank of America has a portfolio of $1 million. Let's just say that's on the cheap side, $1 million worth of bad debt. And then they'll sell that to a debt collection company. The debt collection company tries to collect on that. I can come in and step in and go, I know you bought this for pennies on the dollar, so we're going to negotiate this for pennies on the dollar, and save clients money that way too, if I can't file a lawsuit against them.
I love that. Well, I say I love that because I know that there's like debt collection departments at institutions, and like that's their job. Is it's or actually they sometimes will cleverly call it asset recovery. Asset recovery, right? Yep. And it's not that it's not an asset. It just sounds like a very conveniently clever name to call to call it. But in the end, really, there's a lot of debt collection activity that's happening in that space. So day in, day out, are you seeing kind of some of the same patterns happening right now? Because, you're mentioning about how debt collections have now ticked up back again, kind of like, the chains are off again. So now debt collection is heavy. Is that like the bulk of what's happening right now? Or because you mentioned ID theft earlier, and I have a whole bunch of questions about that. So is it equal time or? It's
a mix. It's kind of interesting on the debt collection side. What I'm finding a lot is lawsuits that are being filed against consumers for debt that's outside the statute of limitations, and I can kind of explain that a little bit. But so credit card companies typically have 4 years to file a lawsuit against you if you stopped using the card or stopped making payment on the card. And a lot of these debt collection companies aren't realizing that they're filing lawsuits for debts that weren't paid in 2020. Oh. So then I go in, file a lawsuit and go, wait a minute. First of all, you had no right to file this lawsuit against the client or the consumer because it's bad debt. It's old debt.
It's already outside that 4-year term. Wow.
Years. Yeah. So you have no legal right to collect on that in the court system.
But an unknowing consumer who might have gotten a notice, even if the notice shouldn't exist in the first place, could make a payment unknowingly.
Absolutely.
And could they recover if they did that on accident and then they found out about it retroactively? Could they recover or no?
No.
Wow.
No.
So what's the punishment for the debt collector that does this?
So what we've been, luckily, with a few of I think we've had like 3 or 4 actually in the last couple of months that called us and said, hey, I haven't paid on this in like 6 years or whatever it is. So that's where we step in and go, if you haven't done that, then they can't sue you. So let's look at the documents. If they truly did file the lawsuit after the 4-year statute of limitations, we will typically defend them in that case. That case will get dismissed, and then we turn around and file a lawsuit against the banks and or the debt collection companies and go, hey, now you owe them for having to hire an attorney for all the stress that you put them under. And the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act is actually a strict liability statute, which means you don't have to prove that you didn't sleep or you were stressed out or you went to the doctor to be able to recover. Just because they did that illegal act, you're entitled to some money.
Oh, wow. So, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. That was a lot I don't know, but I mean, I didn't know that. So I should have asked this probably sooner in the conversation, but how did you end up in this line of law? Yeah. How do you end up here doing this?
Yeah. Funny enough, I was that typical, college student who couldn't figure out exactly what they wanted to do, but wanted to go pre-med route and then decided I was not going to be good with blood. Blood's not my friend. And then I went the psych route, and I really liked learning about people and working with people. And I ended up at a law firm just as their front office manager, front desk. And this law firm did consumer protection, and I'd pick up the phone, start chatting with clients, and, they're just like going at you a mile a minute, telling you all the stuff that's going on in their life. And I was like, I could do this. I think I could really help clients in this manner. And so, you're hearing everything. I try to pay my debts. I can't pay my debts. And I think, I think what they say is like death is number 1 as far as stress and trauma, and then like divorce is number 2. And then I think usually number 1 reason or very close up there for divorce is monetary issues, right? Like money struggles and stuff like that. And so a lot of those clients were saying, getting a divorce over this, I just can't sleep at night, all this stuff's going on. And so listening to those clients and being on the side where I couldn't go advocate for them, I was like, I really want to do this. I want to go to law school. I want to kind of help. I want to help in a different way. So I ended up going to law school. I worked at that firm actually for 10 years. Loved it, went up the ranks, did every position you could think of at that firm. And then finally, as an attorney, I decided I wanted to go out on my own and open up my own firm and kind of navigate how I wanted to help clients myself.
That's awesome. I mean, I can see the blend of having that like kind of interest in psychology background being super helpful in what you do, especially because the state and the nature at which people find themselves emotionally when they find you, or when you finally are introduced. Because there is a lot of duress around debt. On our world, there's a couple things that sometimes they just take you back. One of them around here, like I mentioned, we've been around for 20 years. We have thousands of clients, and one of the things that happens is sometimes we make follow-up calls all the time. We send birthday letters every month, or birthday cards out for all of our past clients every year. So every month, the whole batch of cards go out. And every once in a while, someone says, "Oh, my spouse passed away since the last time I talked to you." We had someone call a couple weeks ago, and he's like, "My son died." And we're like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy." Yeah. Or someone will say, "Oh, I'm getting a divorce and we have $100,000 of debt." And so those things come up, and it's like, there is a like human behavioral advantage, not in a sales way, in a compassionate way with people when you understand the depth of what's happening in the moment. And, and I don't know how it is for your industry, but especially for ours in mortgage, it's a finance job. People think, "Oh, you're only in sales. you only care about making money. Your clients are numbers," all that kind of stuff, and completely overlooking the human nature part of it and the interpersonal part. And we have had clients for a very long time who invite us to their family parties, and we spend time outside of work with them because they become our friends. And the noise of the internet, and I think the noise of marketing and big banking and big everything now, the age of everything being big, I think it dilutes that a lot. But I can see how that might be really helpful, being able to exchange with people in that way when they're in such a tough spot.
Yeah, the fun part about my job is actually there's only a few things that I have to charge clients for, because I don't have a way, like, in order for me to do what I do, right, I got to get paid for that. But majority of what I do, they're fee shifting statutes, which means I can actually get my money from the banks. So I typically do it on a contingency fee basis. And that takes a lot of that. Like, it really is what excites me about it, because I can help clients. And they oftentimes are like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean I don't have to pay you anything?" And I'm like, "Well, I get paid when you get paid. So let's go through this and, try to figure out what we could do for you as far as getting you the maximum amount of money possible to get you back to where you need to be." So that's the fun part of it too, is I don't necessarily have to worry about that tug, that.
Well, we share a similar motivation in that we don't earn anything until the job is done and it's finished. So we don't get paid to show up and wait. We only get paid after we've succeeded doing the thing you've asked us to do.
Exactly.
So it's similar in that.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way for us as a mortgage business. But I can see how your interest and passion for understanding psychology would really give you an advantage with dealing with people, and then being tough dealing with the banks. Know how to like switch, put that other like two-face, right? I got one face over here. Oh, I'll help you. The other face. Okay, no, this is what you're gonna do. This.
Yeah, I had a client who was like, he was joking, and he's like, "I really do feel like David, and I really feel like these banks are Goliath." And I'm like, "Yeah, we get that often." But yeah, that's the fun part about it.
So tell me something that you've noticed, like, that's changed recently, that has now, I don't know, say like it's new, maybe novel, where, I didn't notice that, or that's a brand new thing, and then now it's becoming more frequent. Is there anything that's changed in either the law, the policy, the practices, the kind of behaviors you're seeing? What's changed recently that you now think people should be more aware of?
Yeah, great question. For me, it's arbitrations. So we used to be able to file in, especially the statutes I use, we use federal court. So we used to be able to file in federal court, and we used to be in front of a judge and in front of a jury of your peers. And now because in I believe it's 2015 or 2016, there was a landmark case, Supreme Court case that came out that talked about arbitration clauses, and it was AT&T versus Concepcion. And so that really changed the landscape of how we handle these cases now. A lot of our clients are getting dragged into arbitration, and it's on the hush hush, right? So we file the complaint, and then they invoke their right to bring it to arbitration, and then you have an arbitrator who's reviewing the facts and making the decisions. And oftentimes the arbitrators are either a retired judge or it's an attorney. And so I do think that arbitration is making it a lot harder for consumers to keep that balance, right, of between themselves and the banks. When a bank does something wrong, they should be held accountable. And now, even though arbitration does that, it's on a lesser scale almost. It's a little frustrating for me having to be pulled into arbitration. We're getting it done, and it's not the end of the world, but it definitely does change the landscape of these lawsuits.
So talk about so let's talk about the ID theft part of this, though, because is there ever a case where ID theft actually goes to court or arbitration? That's not. It's like a completely unexposed part of the world to me. Fortunately, have never been a victim of ID theft, and I don't even know what kinds of ID theft there might be. A social security card and social security number. Is it just like a driver's license? Is it just name and number, like common name stuff? Like talk to me about all this kind of stuff.
So, yes, there's different types of identity theft. So some of them they stole your social security number, they're using it for employment purposes, and now they're working for somebody and they're not paying taxes, or they're paying little in taxes, and the IRS comes after you and now says you owe them money. That's not what I handle. There is also the social security aspect of it, like you mentioned, where they go and get they'll get a driver's license, and then they're driving on your driver's license, and you're like, but wait a minute, that wasn't me, and all these tickets aren't mine, and then you're dealing with the DMV. Again, not something I deal with. So I don't deal with the government aspect of identity theft, but there are a lot of resources out in San Diego that do and can help people. And usually if they call me, I navigate them towards those resources. My field is more so, let's just say you had an ex, you've been married for a while, but let's say you had an ex-girlfriend who popped up and out of nowhere, right? And she knew your social security number because you guys lived with each other. And she took that and ran with it and got a Costco City card and charged up a whole bunch of stuff. And now you're on the hook for $20,000 on a City card that you have no idea even existed. And you have City card contacting you saying you owe $20,000. So
what?
Yeah. You're like, I have no idea what to do with this.
I also kind of feel like you're laying out a playbook. Be careful. Well, you said that like real easy. You're all, hey, look, do this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
My clients.
Yeah. Great. Someone's going to check the show transcript. Like, okay, what was the first step she said? What was the second? Okay, go to Costco. You get a City card.
Exactly.
But this is what people do. You're saying this is what people are doing.
People do. So you can have
wild.
You can have family members. You can have friends that end up kind of taking your information and running with it and doing whatever they want with it. We've also seen complete strangers where one of my clients had her identity stolen, had social security number was taken. They had contacted all of her credit card companies and changed their address. So their address was a new address in Florida. And, there's calls upon calls upon calls that are not my client asking for new cards, saying the card doesn't work. It's crazy. There's like a whole ring.
No way.
Yeah, it's really crazy. And so you have that aspect of it too, right? Where somebody has your information from the dark web, and now they've got your social security, they have your address. That's all they need in order to go to these banks and either open up new credit cards and or mess with the credit cards that you already have. So we deal with that a lot.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And oftentimes our clients don't know it because people don't check their credit reports. And that's usually how you would find out about something like that. Because they've changed your address. So you're not getting a statement anymore. Right. You're not really, it could be an account.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm thinking here. Like you're finding out about it in retrospect because it's been happening over the course of the timeline of you just living your regular life, not ever having to think about it because it's not on the forefront of your mind, certainly, until like, whatever, something happens and then, oh shoot, wait, what? And then, oh, it's been happening for 3 months or 6 months or longer. I mean, how long have you seen an ID? Like, now I have a new question. By the time a case for ID theft has gotten to you, do you have one that's been like years long? What's the longest one you've seen?
I had one client, it was 10 months. It was going on for 10 months and it was with Chase, and she was actually a real estate agent had no idea about it at all. And the only reason why she knew about it, funny enough, was that Citibank lowered her threshold on her credit card. So she had like a $60,000 balance or $60,000 credit limit, and they lowered it to $1,500. And
that might as well be zero if it's from 60.
Yeah. So she contacted them and went, what happened here? And they're like, well, you've got collections, you've got debt. So we dug in, figured out what happened. And over the course of 10 months, they had charged $150,000 on 2 credit cards.
What?
And what they were doing was they would charge $10,000 and then they would send a check, and that check would, go towards payment. So now they have that $10,000 available. Then they would charge another $10,000. It just was like this.
So they basically got a line of credit and ran a mini Ponzi on it.
It was a credit card.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So let's say if it's a $50,000 credit limit, they take 10 out and make a $500 payment, take another 10 out, make another $500 payment. So you've only lost $1,000, but gained 20.
Yep. And you would think Chase would have caught,
Sorry, I don't mean to allude that I figured that out so fast, but I was following I'm following the math of what you're saying there. I was like, what they did. That's a mini Ponzi scheme.
It is a mini Ponzi scheme. And we don't know why Chase didn't figure it out, because it literally happened over the course of 10 months where they were just making payments. I mean, 10 payments to the point where you're getting it to $150,000. And, it definitely
is it too crazy for me to say that maybe that's just too small time for them to notice? Like, wouldn't they have this is 100% pure speculation. I feel like they would have some sort of software or system that would flag stuff like that. At least to be like, hey, someone should go look at that. Yeah. But maybe not. I don't know. They're a huge bank.
Better at it. This was quite a few years ago. So I think they are definitely getting better at, making sure that they are protecting themselves. I don't know if you get it. I get it all the time. We use Navy Fed, and they'll ping me and say, hey, you charged $50 at some random place that you don't know where to go to. So they are getting better at it. And there's definitely some banks that are really great at protecting clients or consumers. There's just some that I think don't care.
They don't care. Okay. I won't ask you to explain more than that. I'll read between the lines on your delivery. So, okay, I want to keep talking about ID theft though. So what do people do? Like, if they find out that they've been, like, their identity has been stolen, whether it is their driver's license or their social security card, like, what's the first thing they need to do? What's the second thing they need to do? Like, are you allowed to give some non-paid advice here?
So, luckily we live in California, and California is incredibly consumer friendly. So, all of the statutes that I have that I can use federally, California has its own equivalent that's actually more protective of consumers. So in California, we have an identity theft statute that allows us to protect consumers. Basically, what you got to do is you got to let the company know that you have been a victim of identity theft. You usually can do that by using the FTC fraud affidavit, and that's online. You could find that by just Googling that, filling that out, sending it off to the bank and saying, hey, I've been a victim of identity theft. Typically, I'll say get a police report. You want the police involved. They're not going to do anything because they can't. A lot of times I get clients who want to go after the person that stole their identity because it's personal, right? You're like, wait a minute, you stole my identity and I feel violated and I want to sue you. It's a lot harder than you think to even find these people, especially when it's a ring or somebody that you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so with
is that more of a formality, just to like, it's like, I'm being serious about this, even if it doesn't go anywhere for like actually pursuit of a person who might've done it? Or because if you're saying it doesn't, you're saying kind of saying it doesn't have teeth, but it makes people feel better, but the cops can't do anything. But like,
yeah, it's not that it doesn't have teeth. It's, the police report, any crime should really be reported, and this is a crime. And so the police report is one, to let the cops do at some point figure out like, hey, there is a scheme going on. Like the more people report it, the easier it is for them to find a pattern,
yeah, that
right?
makes sense. Because if there's 10 people that it happens to and all 10 of them say nothing, then the cops have no idea that it might be happening in their backyard or whatever.
Right, exactly,
I understand maybe it's happening out of the Florida example earlier.
Exactly.
But okay, that makes sense. I was over here curious whether there's like a financial threshold, because because there's a non-financial threshold that there's no financial part at all if it's like a driver's license or like a passport or something like that. But the second it becomes like credit cards and car loans and that kind of stuff, well, now it's money involved.
Yeah, exactly. And so you do want to report it. What I meant was it kind of goes to the back burner if it's a smaller case, or if it's a bigger case. They have to really gather a lot of evidence and be able to gather that evidence. And sometimes murder is more important than a credit card.
Understandably, understood.
That's not yours. And so you do want to do the police report. You send the police report and the fraud affidavit over to the bank and say, hey, this isn't my debt. I'm letting you know this isn't my debt. This is the information that I know about this debt. Help me out here. And oftentimes the banks will do their investigation. It'll last about 2.2 seconds, and they'll send you a letter that says,
"Is that a scientifically measured time there, Sarah? 2.2 seconds. Wow, that was very specific there."
Yeah. They'll send you a letter that says, "We don't believe you," not in those words, but you're still responsible, and we want you to pay.
They'll say it in legalese.
Absolutely, yeah. And then typically, I get involved at that point because the client's just so frustrated with it. Right? They're like, "I don't know what else to do. I've got debt collectors who are contacting me, harassing me, and I've also got this on my credit report, and I was trying to buy my home, or I was trying to buy a car, or I was trying to live my life." And so that's usually when I step in. And then, like I said, California has really great consumer statutes, and we can file lawsuits against the banks for not doing their job, not reviewing what they need to be reviewing, and making consumers whole.
So what is a way for people, because there's just so much information about us made available in digital places and even in federal and state and local places, whether you're registered to vote in your county or you have a driver's license in your state, you pay taxes to the IRS, like our social security numbers places, our personal ID with our driver's licenses places, like our addresses known, like, how do you teach people to take like an offensive position to maybe prevent some of this stuff?
Absolutely. So you'd be really surprised. I'm gonna bring it full circle, but you'd be surprised how many people don't even look at their bank account statements. And it's incredibly important to know where the money's going and where the money is coming from, right? And so I would say, check your statements monthly, check all of your bank statements monthly, check all of your credit card statements monthly, because there's actually 2 statutes that protect you when money is taken out of your bank account, and or if there's a credit card, like just one, maybe the credit card's still in your purse or in your wallet, and you charged something and it was a company that actually defrauded you and not a person that defrauded you, right? There's still statutes that help you with that too. So check your bank statements, make sure that the money that you have going in and out is accurate. And your credit reports. I really wish that they would teach, instead of calculus, how to do finance and or checking your credit report in high school. The amount of people that don't understand how important credit is in the United States baffles me. There's other countries. I'm from Iran, and we don't deal with credit in Iran. And so that's just cash is king, and that's all you got. But in the United States, credit is king almost. You can't do much. You can't rent an apartment. You can't get a credit card. You can't get a loan. A lot of things that we depend on in the United States is all dependent on these credit bureaus and what's on your credit report. So now that you have the opportunity to check it every 7 days, I wouldn't check it that often, but check it every month at least. Make sure that what's on your credit report is accurate. I don't know if you heard, but the Social Security Administration had a data breach. So all of our Social Security numbers are out there from the entity that was supposed to protect all of our information. So you can't expect that you're not going to be a victim of identity theft.
You're not anonymous anymore.
Yeah, you're not. You're not. And you can't say like, oh, I don't use Ticketmaster, which was one of them.
That was
one.
I
don't use Equifax and Experian. You use them too. So your information's out there. It's on the dark web. You got to just deal with it, unfortunately. But you can, with the 3 bureaus, you can actually freeze your credit, which is a little bit of a pain when you want to go out and get loans yourself or get extended credit yourself, but you can freeze your credit, and that allows for others to not be able to actually use your credit. So I do recommend to everybody, go out and freeze your credit.
So it sounds like it's almost like putting like a padlock on your credit, and it only gets unlocked when you need to unlock it to use it, and then you can relock it again.
Exactly.
That's interesting. I don't think I knew about that, but I can see that as a strategy you would recommend.
And it only protects against new accounts. So let's say you have a credit card and it's already open. It won't necessarily help against that, but any small.
Well, I think about that. I'm thinking about that realtor example where they took out a new car, or your friend over at Costco getting the new City card. that'd be an example of opening new credit under your name. But if your account's frozen, you can't. Like that makes a lot of sense. Can people do that online? Do you have to call each bureau individually? Is there one way to get all the merged people to do it? Like
You can do it online. So you do have to go to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion's websites, but you can do it online. I will say, don't sign up for anything because they put you in their arbitration clauses and they get you in their clutches. So don't sign up for anything. But you definitely can go on and freeze your credit report. And then if you decide you do want to go buy that car, or you're going to, apply for a credit card, you just unfreeze it. It's really easy. You can call them, go online, do it online. Takes a couple minutes to do it, unfreeze it, and then you can use it and then freeze it again.
So I want to go back to the whole credit part where you're saying people can check their credit every 7 days, but you don't really need to. Where are you currently today recommending people do that at? Do you have a preferred destination you send people to that's kind of, I'll say, has a good reputation?
Yeah. So annualcreditreport.com, that actually allows you to check all three. You have to be a little tech savvy because it's not as user friendly as I would like it to be. But it does allow you to go through and check, first you check Equifax and then you can check your TransUnion and your Experian. And I always recommend downloading your reports. It's like a snapshot of what's going on in your life. And even not considering the identity theft, there's so many inaccuracies on those credit reports too that people don't realize are stopping them from having a higher credit score or being able to get the loans that they need as well. It doesn't have to be an identity theft issue. It can just be that something's wrong, right? We deal with so many companies and they make so many mistakes that even that is something you should be paying attention to.
Okay. So if you're okay with it, I'd love to talk about like maybe some like wild experiences or cases you had, things that are just like super outlier that like you'd never would have thought would have ever happened or made you go like, whoa, that's crazy. Have you had an experience where like someone came to you and you like uncover that someone has defrauded them or not defrauded, but like taken out $1 million in their name, owns 4 houses in 9 states and 19 cars and stuff like that? What's the craziest thing you've experienced so far?
It hasn't gotten that crazy, luckily. But I did.
Well, that's refreshing. That's nice to know.
I know. I did have a client who, we were able to get that all resolved pre-litigation, so we didn't actually file a lawsuit. But he had an ex-girlfriend he was living with, and he had moved out and thought everything cut ties and all that good stuff, and did not realize that there was a credit card that she opened up a credit card in his name and was still charging this credit card. Unfortunately, she had passed and nobody was making payments on that credit card anymore. Oh, no. And so he had never checked his credit score, never checked his credit reports, didn't know that this account even existed. Gets a call, says, hey, you owe us money. And he's like, I don't even know how I would owe you this money. Realizes that it was that ex who opened up that card and is now like, what do I do? Right. So luckily we were able to get him in the right direction. He didn't have to file a lawsuit. And the banks did what they were supposed to do finally. And so
what in that situation, what do they do? Is it just a charge off at that point?
They write off the debt.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So they just have to take it as a capital loss probably.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
When they have insurance, they can deal with that on the back end.
I was shrugging. Yeah, whatever. Hey, that's what they got insurance for. Yeah.
They're making.
Thankfully, we've never had a reinsurance problem in the history of our capital markets. But hey, what do I know, right? Wink, wink.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I've had the collection side gets a little bit more interesting. I had one veteran who was dealing with coming back from Iraq and PTSD ratings, and he had a debt collector that was contacting him and harassing him at work, and he kept saying like, "Please leave me alone. Stop."
While on active duty?
No, he was a veteran at this point.
Oh, you said okay. I'm sorry, you said veteran.
Yeah,
I'm all. There's no way. There's no way that's gonna fly.
No, he was a veteran, and they just incessant. They just kept calling, and she latched on for some reason. It was one debt collector at this company who latched on really bad, and to the point where it got really bad for him. It got really, really bad for him. He luckily contacted us. We were able to get him in the right direction, get him the help he needed, the resources he needed in order to get his mind right. And then also we're able to file the lawsuit against the company too. So he wasn't dealing with that anymore. But it was so incessant that he basically was just to the point where he's like, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm lost. So that one always sticks to me because I'm, my husband's also a vet, and they go through so much, and then to come back to get harassed by a debt collector who, she was any name you can think of. She was calling him loser, deadbeat, anything you could think of,
et cetera, and others that you're probably not going to mention. Yeah,
it was awful, and none of it was true. None of it was true. It wasn't even. I mean, it wasn't an issue that he needed to deal with.
And I think a lot of people that follow us kind of know this, but maybe some of the general public doesn't know this, that there are certain levels of when you are in the military in your career, there are certain levels of security clearance that require you to have good credit, clean credit, good finances, especially because you're either dealing with important information, critical information, or also money. And there's like almost like a security bond that's needed to be met so that like you're not going to do something nefarious over here to cure a problem over here in this part of your life. And so for some people, I can imagine that having either ID theft or some sort of financial fraud against them, that would be a direct threat to their career inside the military.
I've had to write many letters to command saying, as a victim of identity theft, we're dealing with it. We're trying to fix it. Please let them go through the security clearance process. They're good to go. They have an attorney in their back corner. We've had to deal with a lot of that, unfortunately, with military, with Border Patrol. I've had that with Border Patrol as well, where they've had issues and they need security clearance too. But yeah, we actually have had many clients who've had a lot of issues with security clearance and us having to file lawsuits just to clear their names so that they can keep their security clearance, because it's important. You're right. It's the idea of if you owe somebody money, right, then who's going to be able to get you to do something that might not be good for the U.S.
Yeah, that's right. So has there been anything that's been like, odd or weird or quirky that you kind of looked at and went, oh, that's a first? Like someone bought a giraffe under my name, or they took a helicopter all the way from San Diego to Niagara Falls.
So I just actually just finalized a case where they had spent about $8,000 in Uber Eats.
Wait, what?
Yeah, $8,000.
$8,000 in food delivery?
Food delivery.
Wait. And over a month?
Over a month.
Oh my God, that's a lot. I mean, even with the price of food nowadays and the Uber Eats additional margin on there, that's still a lot of food.
$8,000. We were like,
where were they ordering from?
Everywhere and anywhere. From, essentially, we laughed at it.
It wasn't just like the most expensive steakhouse in San Diego or what?
No, it was anywhere and everywhere that they could with Uber Eats. But, we laughed at it. Not the client. Poor client wasn't laughing at this because they took it out of his bank account. So it wasn't even a credit card where he could say, "No, I'm not going to pay this." They took it out
straight cash.
They took it out of his bank account. So he's lost $7,000, $8,000 almost, and couldn't get it back. And the banks just weren't playing ball. They weren't.
Are you for real? The bank didn't see that as oh, this is odd. Like there's no transaction. Hold on a second. Wait. Now the other part of Andy's coming out. Now I'm starting to have a problem with this. Okay, so first of all, that's crazy. There's almost $8,000 of Uber Eats. Number one. Number two, the transaction record is going to be there on the bank statement, and there's no history of this ever, or anything close to that.
Nope.
And they still go, well. Yep. You just did that month, and there's no consumer protection around this.
There is. There is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he had proof that he wasn't in the country at the time either.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's the we've got two of them. So if you remember, one of them is EFTA. It's the Electronic Transfer Funds Act.
Okay.
That protects your ATM it doesn't protect wire transfers, but it protects your ATM, your debit card, and any money coming out of your bank with electronic means. And then we've got the Fair Credit Billing Act, which is your credit cards. So if there's something, if this had happened on his credit card, I could have helped him as well there. So we did. We filed a lawsuit under EFTA, and that was a fun one to litigate, because we were like, really, what are you guys thinking here?
Because the record would also have like where the food was delivered to and all that kind of stuff. So there's obviously like a little evidence trail to some house or houses or addresses. Was it like one address, or is it like a string of addresses?
It was an interesting one. So this client went to the police department, and this police officer did an amazing job. Now, when I say they usually don't, this one, we were shocked. We were like, how did we get these records? He had subpoenaed Uber Eats and found out that it was a location in Los Angeles, and it was essentially like just a little ring in Los Angeles of homes that were getting Uber Eats. But yeah, $1,000 a day, $500 a day of just Uber Eats.
Oh my gosh, that's nuts.
I've
never heard of this.
Our poor client was like, I don't even know what Uber Eats is. I've never used it in my life.
Yeah. Not even in the country, let alone like having ever used this service. Yeah. That's insane. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. Has there ever been have you had a situation where like a single purchase that was like just really astronomical?
We had
someone go buy a Ferrari one day with somebody.
We had a USPS for $20,000.
Wait, what?
US stamps.
The post office stamps. For $20,000?
$20,000.
Like rolls of stamps?
Yeah. We don't know what they bought, but it was a line item.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm making up the stamps thing.
I would. What else do you buy?
They spent $20,000 at the post. Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like that's a lot of PO boxes. So, no, but or that's Well, their flat rate boxes are free. Like, what do they sell at the post office?
Stamps.
Yes, mail services and stamps. Like that's a lot of notaries. No, I don't know.
We had a double. We looked at it again. We were
wow, $20,000 at the post office.
Okay, that
was a good day at the post office.
Yeah, great day at the post office.
Okay, so this might be a little more personal, but I'm going to ask a couple like rapid fire questions. What keeps you up at night?
Oh gosh, you know, I do worry about where we're going financially as a country. I think that a lot of we had the 2008 issue, and that was, I was a legal assistant at that point, got to see all of that good stuff. And that was not fun for our population. So I am a little worried. I mean, I do see a lot more people contact us and say, I've got to file for bankruptcy, or I don't really know what to do as far as finances are concerned. So I am a little nervous about consumerism and where we're headed. With all the new electronics and all the new things that we need to buy, and Christmas is right around the corner. It's probably the busiest time for us is right after Christmas, because so many people spend so much during Christmas. Mm-hmm. And I get it. I mean, you want to, you want to do what you can for the family and make sure that it's good. But I do hope that people stay a little bit more financially savvy, figure out how to handle those finances easier. Again, I wish that they taught finance in high school. Anytime I talk to a client, I'm like, look, this is how your credit report is made up. Like, these are the things you can do to actually make your credit better. Your credit score go higher. And oftentimes they had no idea that those were even issues. But
I didn't even think about the seasonal nature of it, because with all the spending that happens around like the November, December months, that's actually might be I'm going to caution. I'm going to say it anyways. I probably shouldn't even say this, but like I can see where that might even be a nice little opening of a window for people who want to defraud others, because you can very easily overlook something of the tune of $50, $100, $200 here and there, because there's just a lot of money going everywhere from a lot of different places. It might be easier to sneak something in there when no one's looking.
And it's also, I don't know if this has happened to you. We chuckle at my office, but we've had actually a couple people like message me and go, hey, I got an email from you asking me to go buy, these gift cards. And I'm like, nope, Nope, please don't. Nope, nope. So it does keep me up at night. I think the amount of information that's out there, the amount of opportunities, we used to laugh back in 2008, 2009, 2010 about the Prince of Nigeria scams that you could kind of figure out were really scams. They've gotten so sophisticated that now you really do question, are these legitimate or are these actual scams? And so everybody that comes into my office, whenever we hire first, we go, I will never send you anything asking you to buy me anything. I promise you. I will hand you the business card and say, please go do that on this business card.
Oh, man.
And they get it all through LinkedIn. Like there's so much information available out there that these scammers are just getting more sophisticated.
And unfortunately, I think just numerically, you're going to turn over enough rocks and find something under one of those at some point. So, you put a million attempts out there, 10 to 100 of those are going to return something. So, that sucks, but hey, the numbers are the numbers, I think. What is it what's the most gratifying part of your work?
I really love helping clients throughout the process, not just when we finalize it, but even throughout the process. It's so stressful when you're dealing with these banks and you're trying to get it off your credit report. Or, I have clients who've done it. They've sent 10 letters. They've sent 15 letters, and they're just at the point where they're not very litigious either. They don't want to file lawsuits, but they have no choice but to. And then they kind of give it to us, right? And then now we're dealing with it, and they don't have to worry about it anymore. There are no more calls. It's off their credit report almost immediately. It's funny with the credit bureaus. We file a lawsuit, they almost immediately take it off the credit report, or they suppress it, right? So everything shoots up, and you're like, why couldn't you do that before we had to file a lawsuit? But yeah, so I think that's the most gratifying for me is when clients call me and go, I just feel like I feel comfortable now. Like I can sleep again, even though this is not done, I can sleep. And I feel good about that. So,
what's the hardest part of your job?
Oh gosh,
what's emotionally the hardest part of your job?
So listening to all of the stories, and sometimes I can't do anything for clients, like the instances where they go out and they buy the gift cards and they give off the numbers. Unfortunately, there's absolutely nothing I can do about that. Sometimes I do have clients who call me and say, I thought I was in love, and this person, I've given them tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars and never met them. It's out there. It's out there. Andy, it's out there. It's out there, and oftentimes it's older people who are just being taken advantage of. That I wish I could change. The other thing that's really emotional for me is, when the client wants to file, like for instance, they want to file, they want to go after them criminally, and the law really ties my hands on some of these things. There's only so much I can do, and having that conversation with the client and going, I can't get that accomplished for you because the law doesn't take it that far. And then the client's not being upset; they're never upset about it, but just still feeling that void of like, I still feel violated, right? Like, what do I do about this? And how do I protect myself from it happening again? And I oftentimes have to go, just be really diligent, just be really careful about what you're doing. So,
wow,
that's probably the hardest part.
Wow. Looking forward, what is it that you think is, you mentioned the pressure financially that's happening in the system. And, we're talking about debt earlier, and even me just referencing the, personal credit card consumption, there's a day of reckoning coming at some point somehow. So when it comes to like consumer protection, are there any like bills or policies that you're aware of that are coming up that are going to kind of advance what can be done for people on I'll say the victim side of the table? Are there other things coming up that we need to be aware of that we should maybe advocate for or against that are going to help or hurt the consumer side of what's happening in legal land?
One of the things that I think really helped consumers was the creation of the CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. With the dismantling of that, I think it's going to be a lot harder for consumers to be able to actually protect themselves, because what the CFPB was doing was they were doing it on a mass scale, right? They were going after like Navy Federal Credit Union, who was taking tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars from vets, military members, all that good stuff. And with the dismantling of that, and with kind of taking away those opportunities for bigger companies, bigger corporations to protect the little guy. I do worry about that. Also, again, not to get political about it, but there was a really great policy that went into place during Biden's administration, which was the insurance. If medical debt was under $500, it wouldn't show up on your credit report. I've been a victim of that, not a victim, but like I even had, it was a bill, it was $50 and it ended up on my credit report and it haunted me for 3 years. I had no idea that this bill even existed, but it was from a doctor's, assistant that I got a bill from that I didn't pay because I thought everything went through insurance and I thought we were good with everything. But you know how you get those like little bills here and there.
Yeah, it have like 6 months later, it shows up and you're like, oh, you owe $13.78. You're like, oh, okay.
At that point, it's already past due and sent to collections. You're like, I've never even heard of
I literally got this today.
Yeah.
Like, oh, but it was from 6 months ago. I'm like, that was when I was at the service.
Exactly. And so I do fear that we are not creating as many consumer protection laws out there. I get it. I think making sure that there are the least amount of regulations as possible is probably great in some way, but at the same time, I think being able to keep the checks and balances, because at the end of the day, with the banks, we can say class actions are great and they really do well for clients, but these banks don't care. 17 million is nothing.
I know, and especially with the CFPB, like I've found myself being on both sides of that conversation, or both sides on liking it and disliking it, because there are absolutely some things. There are some facets of it where I'm like, oh, I can absolutely see that this is going to generally be an advantage, right? So large scale things, right? The Navy Fed, there was a Wells Fargo thing that I won't bring up that had happened. Now that I'm like, okay, cool. At least there's an agency or a division that can go and handle that on behalf. Now, in the absence of the CFPB, it's to the open market to now settle that, either a large law firm or a class action something, and someone's got to go, that's worth my time to do, and have enough teeth into it that they'll actually recover something that's worth taking it on. Now, that leaves a gap. Now, on the other side of the CFPB, I think is terrible, which there is documented tons of oversight and waste that was stuff never got done, and a lot of absolutely unnecessary things that were redundancies already built into other industries, like mortgage, like lending, personal lending, all that kind of stuff, where it's like you guys literally just repeating the thing that's already in our own little container. So there was some of that kind of stuff. So it would be interesting to see if there at some point would be I'll say a revised version of something like that, or if the parts of the CFPB that were actually functional made their way into some other department that already exists. I think that might be a longer, better solution later, because some of those things core still need to be done.
Yeah. I think we have them in all areas. Living in a capitalistic country and living in consumeristic country, right? There's got to be things in place to be able to protect the little guys. Like really, the David and Goliath kind of an issue. I was part of the Volkswagen. I don't know if you remember that issue where Volkswagen had.
Are you talking about the diesel testing?
Yeah.
I literally was talking about that on Saturday.
Yeah. So I had about 600 clients that were part of that just in California.
Wait, 600? Oh my God. So the conversation I was having, sorry, I didn't know this was going to happen. So context, I was telling my friend, hey, haven't you seen the graveyard, all the bikes in China? And he goes, what are you talking about? And I showed him the overhead picture of like the millions of bikes that are just in this bike graveyard. And I'm like, yeah, Volkswagen has one too. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm all, okay, remember Dieselgate and the whole Volkswagen thing? I was telling him the story. He goes, oh, I didn't hear about that. I'm like, there are acres of Volkswagens just sitting there because they cannot do anything with them. And they're, I'll say, perfectly functioning cars, but because of Dieselgate, they can't be used.
They can't
Sorry, I literally was talking about this on Saturday.
Yeah. And it's, we had the EPA step in and handle that aspect. So if the EPA, and it really did help, but the EPA kind of set the standard of what we were going to do on those cases. But the EPA couldn't have gone after and helped every single one of those clients out, right? So you still have to have your attorneys that can come in and go, I'm going to help you on the smaller scale. But the EPA set the standard and said, no, this is not okay. Like, they're the ones that were able to do all of the depositions, all of that stuff. So that's, I think, something that's really important as well, as far as having these, governmental entities that are there to protect us from business and corporations. And again, you can look at it both ways. I agree with you. There was a lot of waste with CFPB as well. They could have done a lot more in a lot less time, a lot less money. But I do think that sometimes the good outweighs the bad. I mean, it really was disheartening to hear that the Navy federal lawsuit was that those sums were not going to go back to the service members and vets and people that use their services. So
I was looking up real quick how many cars there were in Dieselgate, and I was like, I don't remember if it was like 100,000 or a million. I couldn't remember. I didn't want to like say it wrong, so I just did a quick look up. It says Dieselgate scandal involved approximately 11 million cars worldwide, including nearly 600,000 in the U.S.
In the U.S., yeah.
That is crazy. Because I remember seeing the picture. I'm like, oh, that's thousands upon thousands, like tens of thousands of cars. I know it's only like one place, and I didn't look it up when I was talking about with my friend the other day. So Don, hey, it was good to talk to you about Dieselgate the other day. Don and Lori, 11 million cars.
And I mean, just think about that as far as there's no way even one governmental entity could handle all of that as far as
and they're a global brand.
Right. But also, I mean, we were able to get, really great settlements and just get people back to where they needed to be after all of that. I mean, I remember I had a couple who it was their only car. And California's pretty strict on all that stuff. So California was like trying to like inch its way into saying you can't use the car anymore. And they're like, well, what do? We can't afford another car. Like this was supposed to be our car for, however long that we were going to be able to use it. And so those cases were actually really rewarding because I really did feel like I was fighting the good fight. So
yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah. Wow. So what's next for you, like in your career? Like let's kind of wrap this up. Like, well, first of all, if you need to contact Sara or her partner Amanda at the firm, their contact information will be below. But kind of paint a picture. What's coming up next? What do you want to pursue? What's coming up?
So Amanda and I actually started our firm about 6 years ago, and when we do family law, we do employment law, and we do consumer, and it's been really fun growing this firm because our entire team understands that whoever's calling us is kind of at their worst, right? Like you don't want to be a part of that divorce. You don't want to be dealing with that child support issue. You don't want to be dealing with the identity theft, and you don't want to be dealing with getting fired. And so we've really been working hard to create like a safe space for consumers, for people, just in general, to be able to contact us. And we've been kind of figuring out how do we help our family law clients when they have consumer issues. Because again, we're seeing that debt is maybe not number one. Fidelity is probably number one, but number two, number three, as far as why people are getting divorced, and trying to navigate that for them too, and make it just like a kind of holistic issue where they come in and go, I don't know what to do with all this. So it's been fun and challenging trying to figure out how to mold all three areas. That's been really fun for us. And, I really, really do. I'm hoping we can get away from these arbitrations, but tackling these arbitrations too, making it a little bit harder, not on the arbitrators, don't hate me arbitrators, but making it a little harder, for these banks to keep everything on the hush hush as well. Yeah. Is kind of my goal. So,
well, I have certainly enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much for coming in. I know that there's more I'm sure you can expand on in greater detail, but I am so happy to also introduce you to the people that follow us here, and not only just our past clientele, but our public following as well. So I am so grateful for you spending the time here. I've learned a lot actually today, because there's certain aspects that we get like exposed to in the process of being in finance, and also just being consumers ourselves, but there's certainly more. Like your whole day is that all the time. So it's fascinating to me. So I certainly appreciate you being here today. Thank you so much for sharing and for what you're doing to help consumers. Thank you. This is probably going to sound a little funny, but I hope I never have to call you.
I hope you never have to call me too.
I know who to call if I need to. I really just hope I don't ever have to. So thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for doing what you're doing and helping advocate for consumers and doing good work.
I appreciate
There's a lot of work these days I see that I'm like, wow, that has a different level of value than some other things. And I certainly see the value of what you're doing. So kudos and great job.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you all for watching this episode of Friends of Mortgage Heroes. Remember to like this channel or subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, like the video, share it with someone. And if you are unfortunately in a personal situation where you need some consumer protection, Sarah's contact information is in the description box below in this video. And if this is your first time to the channel, thank you for stopping by. And if this is your second, third, or 19th time coming back, hey, thanks for hanging in with us and thanks for checking out all the fun guests we have here on Friends of Mortgage Heroes. Be sure to check out our regular weekly podcast as well, where we talk about how to win in mortgage and real estate for today and the rest of your life. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you with another great guest next week.